Okay, so epistemology is the branch of philosophy dealing with knowledge. How do we reckon that we know stuff? How do we think that we know stuff? How do you decide that a particular method helps you to learn about the world versus prevents you from learning about the world? That's epistemology. So that when they're talking about legal epistemology, they're talking about how knowledge of the law is created and understood. And that is primarily a linguistic process. So they're saying there's a central role of discourse to law, and to other sociocultural processes. So they're implying that the law is one of a number of sociocultural processes. It involves how we talk, how we act, but also how we interact and govern our society, how we work together or not together in various ways. The role of something to the law, the role of speech is part of discourse, but isn't all of discourse. And I think the reason speech is not as good a choice here is because writing is also very important in the law. So they're saying discourse, which is, it's usually taken to mean people talking to each other and often taken to mean people writing to each other. If you're talking about something as discourse, and it's also, that definition is good because it's also language in use. So
The use of, yeah.
written or spoken language in use. Whereas if you said just speech, the central role of speech, it would be just spoken language. And it might not be looking at it as a process. It might be just thinking about it as concrete examples of people talking to each other. So discourse is a slightly more abstract noun, and it also includes more. But grammatically, and if you didn't have the option of discourse, speech would be just fine. How language is used, really, to law. So how we decide to write and speak to each other is really important for understanding how the law works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which means if you can trick people into thinking that they're talking or writing to something, like using ChatGPT, then you can actually threaten lawyers' jobs, which is what's happening right now. Because if you ask ChatGPT to tell you a legal opinion on something, it'll probably say, I can't do that. But if you ask it to comment on the legality of something, it will tell you something very convincing that might not be true. It's a
Corollary.
logical idea.
It's something that results from something else.
Yeah.
But corollary of, unfortunately,
Corollary of, or corollary of, is a phrase. It's usually used in that way. And the example, unfortunately, violence is the inevitable corollary of such a revolutionary change in society. So it's saying that something results from something else, almost inevitably or unchallenged, in an unchallenged way, or as a natural consequence of something else. So what they're saying that if language is the best way to understanding legal epistemology, that is how legal knowledge is created, then that also means at the same time that discourse, the use of language, is central to the law. So they're kind of, it's kind of like they're saying the same thing twice, but in a slightly different emphasis to try to shift our focus from one thing to another. But they're saying if language is this important for this thing, then discourse, which is language in use, is this important to this related thing. And we can accept that statement if we agree, basically, that is a reasonable link to make. It's how knowledge is evaluated. So if one of the main ways that legal knowledge is understood is through language, it follows that language and the use of language is actually central to the law in general. It's really important for anything like that. And then they go further and they say other sociocultural processes as well. So they're also saying that this same corollary that, language helps us to understand what legal knowledge is. It's actually central to the law in general, and it's central to other processes that are similar to the law. Processes where the way that you talk about something is very important to what it is or what it means.
Yeah.
It's operating at a very abstract level.
Yeah.